Hello and welcome to South Bay Sports Radio. Here's your host, Nick Ingram.
I'm here today with the 14th coach in Bishop Montgomery football history, fresh off a 4-year stint at Murrieta Mesa, a Notre Dame alumni, NFL veteran with a couple years at Arizona, new Bishop Montgomery football coach, Oscar McBride. Coach, thank you very much for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Nick. I'm super excited, man.
Awesome. Before we get started, I want to shout out today's sponsor, Barber2U. South Bay local since 1998. Eli and his team do a phenomenal job making you feel like home. Or if you need somebody to come to you to get a cut, make sure you check out styleseat.com for more information. Search up Barber2U. All right, Coach. A lot of the talk around the area has been what can happen with Bishop Montgomery. Will there be a football team? What's going to happen? When you signed on to be the new coach, what was your vision for this program?
The vision is pretty simple. We want to develop young men. Football is the wins and losses are kind of a byproduct of doing all the other stuff. We're super relational. We want to develop relationships with our kids, with our community. And you being an alum, you understand how strong that community is. When you're in a situation where over a third of your teachers, coaches, and administrators are actually alumni, there's a genuine care about the growth and development of the programs and seeing kids have that level of success. So my vision is clearly enshrouded and wrapped up into that. We're going to develop them as young men. We want them to become the best version of themselves. We know they're going to get better in football just by lifting weights and taking reps in practice, right? But what type of person are they becoming? Are they becoming leaders? Are they becoming guys who are willing to hold each other accountable? Do they love each other? Do they play for each other? So wins and losses, I don't know. I expect to win a few games, but that is not what we're after. Winning games is, I tell people all the time, winning is an outcome, not a destination. And those outcomes are based on what you do, doing the activities every day, lifting, film, doing all the right stuff to get yourself in the best possible situation to be successful. So the vision is pretty simple. We're going to coach the entire human. Somewhere in there, we plan to win some games while we do it.
What was the first response that you got from the guys that were still a part of the program? How do you gauge their response to you when you told them this is what my vision is?
Well, one of the things, when I was interviewing for the job, it was really well done by Laces and Chris Four. I had an opportunity to spend some time with players, with some parents, with some teachers, obviously with the hiring committee, and then, with, senior administration and a representative from the Archdiocese of Los Angeles. And my time with the students, with the players was unbelievable. And I got a chance to ask them, after they asked their questions of me, I had a chance to ask them, what are you guys looking for in a coach? And they were kind of stunned. They kind of looked around, they looked at each other, they looked at me. I'm like, tell me, like, I want to know what you guys are looking for, right? I know what I'm looking for in a program. What are you guys looking for in your coach? And they kind of, whispered to each other a little bit. And the answer was, Coach, we want somebody to lead us. We want somebody to believe in us. And we want somebody to develop relationships with us. I was like, say less. That's who we are. We're a relational program. It's to quote Ace Ventura, like a glove, right? It's right there, man. Everything fits. The kids are starving for someone to invest in time and to love on them. And our staff is here to do that. So we're all moving in the same direction. We've only been here for a month, but we've accomplished so much in that time frame. Just getting the schedule done, getting our guys hired. I've visited 3 feeder schools. We've ordered some equipment. We've ordered new headsets. We've been doing a lot of work. And we're lifting in the weight room 4 days a week, which is something that wasn't here before. There wasn't a definitive off-season program. And anybody who's played football knows that that's where your season begins. And although we are able to lift and we do have that off-season program, we're technically behind. I didn't get here until February 9th. We started in the weight room that next week. So we're not even a month into our off-season program and lifting and getting these guys ready for the next seasons. Things are happening quickly. but we're still up against the gun in terms of time and getting these guys ready for the season that we think we can have.
What are your thoughts on multi-sport athletes? I know a lot of parents want to specialize in one particular sport. And being a Bishop alumni, I was also part of the last wrestling team at Bishop Montgomery. But
Oh, wow.
what's your opinion on multiple sport athletes?
I am all for it. I was a four-sport athlete in high school. I know the day of the four-sport athlete, that's long, long gone. But if a player wants to play a sport, like you play football in the fall, want to play basketball in the winter, you want to play volleyball or baseball in the spring, I'm all for that. I truly believe that if you're going to play at the next level, you need to develop different skill sets. All sports require different skill sets other than athleticism. And college coaches want to see that. They want to see if a guy can switch up. Can he be successful in other programs, playing other sports? So I'm all for that. And I'm a guy that if you're in my football program and you're going into basketball to play, for Coach Mitch, or you're going into baseball to play for Coach Chris, you're in that season of sport. You have no obligation to football because you're concentrating on that season of sport. I'm not going to have a football guy who's playing baseball do football stuff during baseball season. The last thing I need is for him to come do football stuff and sprain an ankle. Now he's out. Now Coach Chris is upset with me because I would be sideways if he was doing baseball stuff in the fall and he got a sprained ankle or a concussion or whatever it is. So I've spoken to the coaches. We're all on the same page. Ultimately, we want the kids to have the best possible experience. And obviously, you want to have the best possible teams that we can put on the field or the diamond or the court. So we're all in agreement with that. We want kids to have the best possible experience.
Being a student athlete is huge, especially at a school like Bishop Montgomery. It's a college prep school. Say a student comes to you and, coach, I'm having a hard time with this class. I can't play, I can't practice, I got to focus. What's your response to them when they're open enough with you to say that?
Go take care of your academics, right? Like the reality is with recruiting being as crazy as it is right now and with things being so volatile, a lot of times the separator is academics. You know what I mean? So I want those guys to focus on academics. We have kids all the time. We got a couple kids today. We've got the big incoming freshman event on campus. Hey coach, I gotta represent my club. I gotta leave lift early. Cool. The only thing I ask from my players is that you communicate. That's it. And I don't care where you are. I don't need you to tell me what you're doing. I just need you to let me know you're not going to be here so we can make the necessary arrangements. Because, missing a guy can change the complete complexion of your practice plan. So we want to make sure that they're communicating. We encourage that.
Coaching's taken a big change since you were playing and, over the last couple of years. But what did you learn over that stint at Murrieta Mesa about being a good communicator, about being open, about inverting the pyramid and allowing them to come to you?
I think, it's about trust, man. Being a relational coach, and this, there is no relationship without trust, right? And trust can't be formed without some level of vulnerability. And when we are talking to the kids, we're talking to them about what being vulnerable looks like. It's counterintuitive. Coach, you're asking me to be vulnerable, but we attack vulnerabilities in our sport. That's what we're looking for. And I tell them, like, look, when I say be vulnerable, I'm not saying I want you to go tell some, unsolicited private stuff about yourself to someone for them to weaponize against you later. What I'm saying is I want you to be your true authentic self because that's enough. Don't be afraid of who you are. Lean into that because our program is going to help you become the best version of that. So the kids are loving it, man. They're starving for that. They're starving for that attention. They're starving for that structure. And my staff and I are more than happy and prepared to bring that to them.
Let's go back to your beginnings. When did you first fall in love with football, and when did you know that football was going to be one of those lifestyle changes for you?
That's a great question. If you ask my mom, it was when I was 2 years old. She's got pictures of me in a football stance out of my grandma's house at 2 years old, still in my diaper. So I guess to say that God put me here to be a part of football, whether it's a player or a coach, is kind of a foregone conclusion. I love the game. I love what it teaches. No disrespect to any other coaches out there, but I feel like football is one of those games that truly teaches you about life. You can work your butt off. You can do everything right. You can still lose. You can work really hard. You can be in the weight room. You can not miss a lift. You can go out and injure yourself and be done for the year. I always tell my players, and for the women listening, please don't get upset. But I literally say, football is like that girlfriend that you fall in love with, and then all of a sudden the next week she's hanging out with your best friend, and you're watching. There's nothing you can do about it but move on. So we try to prepare them so that they understand football doesn't owe you anything, right? You have to go out and give your best effort, regardless of what the potential outcome could be. And we're ever present in that. That's a part of our messaging. It's a part of our standard. It's a part of our process. So succinct communication with the players, succinct communication to the parents. We've already released our calendar through December 15th. So every single day that you're here, the program has been accounted for. Everybody knows exactly what they're doing and what's expected of them. So it's a good spot, man. We're in a good spot right now.
You go on and you play collegiately at Notre Dame. What went into that decision for you to give your 4 years in South Bend, Indiana?
I was raised a Seminole fan. My aunt went to Florida State, so I was kind of baptized in the chop back in the day. It was truly my recruiting trip. I went up, I met, the guys at Notre Dame. I met Coach Holtz. I met Jerome Bettis on my recruiting trip, Tim Brady, John Covington, Oliver Gibson, rest in peace, OG. All those guys I met on my recruiting trip, we all sat around the table and Jerome was like, hey man, if you guys come, I'll come. And, I didn't know Jerome was a superstar at the time. We're all superstars. I'm, USA Today Athlete of the Year for the state of Florida. Like Oliver's Defensive Player of the Year for USA Today. We're all heralded coming from all these different places. Covington came from Winter Haven, Florida. Tim Ruddy was a big 33 guy from Pennsylvania. Obviously, Jerome went to McKenzie High School in Detroit, was a standout. And so I got a chance to play and still to this day call two NFL Hall of Famers, my brother and Bryant Young and Jerome Bettis. And it was truly the family. I'm going back Saturday for Coach Holtz's funeral. I sit on the board of his foundation as his vice president. So when I talk about family, when I talk about togetherness, when we talk about being your best version and leaning into that brotherhood, I'm living that. And I know what that can look like. So I want that for my players. I want them to have that same bond. And it's great because Bishop Montgomery is set up for that. When you have so many administrators, coaches, and teachers who actually went to school here. So that part of the legacy is already in place. So all we have to do at this point, from my perspective, is pick up the baton and run with it.
You spent a couple of years in the NFL with the Arizona Cardinals.
Mm-hmm.
When somebody comes to you and say, Coach, this is my dream. I want to play in the NFL. I want to play at the highest level, not to knock them down, but what's your message to them, knowing how hard it was for you to just make it to the NFL and despite only playing 3 years?
My question would be, what's your plan? What is your plan to get you there? What does that look like for you? Everybody's journey to the NFL is different. Some people go 4-year universities and, leave in 3. Some people go to 4-year universities, leave in 4. Some leave in 5. Some go the JUCO route first. Some people end up going and playing in the UFL or maybe in NFL Europe. There's all kinds of opportunities in place. Some people start in Canada and come to the NFL, i.e. Warren Moon and Doug Flutie. So, when you look at the prospects of making it to the NFL, the opportunity is there. The question is, what's your plan? And what are you willing to sacrifice? And how hard are you willing to work? Right. And do you have the grit? Right. The biggest thing that you hear from a lot of NFL players isn't that, necessarily that they were the greatest athlete. And although they are great athletes, they tell you the difference is they didn't quit. They didn't give up. When things didn't go their way, when that adversity hit, when those injuries came, a new guy that got recruited came in and took their spot. And, they got demoted to second team or, going from starter to having to play only special teams. They didn't quit. So if anything, I would ask, what's your plan? How are you planning to get there? Are you built? Do you really think you're built for that life? Are you built for what it takes? And I'm not talking physically. Right? The physical part of football is that much, right? Are you mentally tough enough? Do you have the staying power? And are you ready for that level mentally and emotionally? That would probably be my approach. Because I don't want to say what somebody can't do. There's tons of guys who played in the NFL and are Hall of Famers who got overlooked or were undrafted like myself, you know, and came in and did great jobs. You know, look at Jesse Tuggle, you know, uh, that guy, you know, 5'9". You know, I ran a drag route my rookie year. We were playing them, you know, ASU Stadium at Sun Devil Stadium. And a guy hit me with a forearm under my, I think I still feel the knot from where he hit me with the forearm. Like he was unbelievable, you know. So if you're looking for that, you're going to have to, you know, kids talk about being a dog and talk about being built different. Well, if you're trying to get to that level and play with the world's elite, you got to be built different.
Your 4 years at Murrieta Mesa, how would you describe that time where you win a CIF championship, and how big was the buy-in from not only the program but the parents as well?
Really similar to what we're seeing here at Bishop. Um, you know, when I got to Mesa, they hadn't had much success. They were coming off of a 0-9 season. There were only about 45 kids in the program, and most of them were freshmen. My offensive coordinator, Eric Torres, and I came in there, and our first year, we shared a league title. The year after that, we took second in league, and we lost to Miracosta with some help from the officials in the semis. And then year 3, you know, we win not only the league championship, but we also won CIF, which was the first one in school history. Went on to the state regional, which was the first time any school in the school district had ever been to the state playoffs. And then year 4, we weren't as strong, but we still managed to win league and went from Division 9. We finished in Division 3. So there's a lot of growth. And just like here at Bishop, the parents, the players were starving for that. And, you know, my staff and I were really adept to giving them what they needed. And it was a beautiful thing, man. We had a great time. We won some games. You know, we enjoyed each other. And those are some relationships with those players and coaches. Are relationships that I'll have forever.
Last one, your coaching mentors. I know you talked about Coach Holtz, and you know, may he rest in peace, but who are some of those guys that you look to when you're like, hey, I need to know what you would do in my position. I need to know how you would attack this situation.
Yeah. Well, obviously, Coach Wood was the first guy. He's the reason I ended up taking the job at Murrieta Mesa in the first place. Skip, obviously, Skip, you know, is his son, and he's also was our receivers and tight ends coach at Notre Dame. He's done a great job in the UFL in Birmingham, winning multiple championships and Coach of the Year honor. So I have another mentor by the name of Glenn Killingsworth. We call him Coach Killer. He worked with Don James back in the day at Washington, and I actually had a chance to work with him at Servite for a few years. You know, I was trying to make a decision after my third year whether or not I was going to come back to Mesa or if I was going to take the job at Tesoro. And he walked me through that process, and I ended up staying at Mesa, and thank God I did because we won it all. So no coach, any coach is going to have a mentor, is going to have someone that he talks to that can give him an objective perspective. Because if any coach is telling you he's not emotional when it comes to his team and his coaches, he's not telling you the truth. It's kind of hard sometimes to separate those things. So it's good to have someone who's going to give you the real, shoot you straight, and that trust that you have in that person can kind of help you make some of those tough decisions. So I've got several, you know, Scott Meyer, Matt Poston, all those guys I work with, you know, JP Presley, who's now at Esperanza, I work with at Orange Lutheran. You know, all those guys are, you know, just a click of a button away and are always willing to offer something to help and support. So I'm super appreciative of that.
Beautiful. There we go. That will wrap the serious part of this interview. All right, Coach, undo the tie. Let's go. Top 3 all-time football players.
Okay. Walter Payton, Kellen Winslow, and quarterback wise, it's kind of a toss up between Joe Montana and Jim McMahon.
All right.
I'm an old school man. I'm an old guy. I don't look like it, but I'll be 54. So I'm old.
You're all right. When I played, I think my practice number was 44 and my jersey number was 51. And I was like, "Ooh, Ken Norton Jr., let's go."
Exactly.
Yeah, like I said, I graduated in 2001. I played 1 year and that was it. You know, circumstances kept me from playing more and things happened. But
yeah.
You get a chance to go back in time and have a meal with anybody. Who would it be?
James Baldwin. James Baldwin, Black American poet and philosopher, probably one of the most articulate human beings. I've read so many of his books, and you probably noticed in my email, I have a quote from him and the signature of my email that says, "It is certain in any situation that ignorance allied with power is the most ruthless enemy justice can have." And that really struck me, so yeah, if I had a chance to sit down with somebody, a lot of people say Jesus, that's kind of a given. Some people say Napoleon, some people say Hitler, although he did some disgusting things. Obviously, if you can get millions of people to get behind you, killing other millions of people, you're a great leader. You're just an evil person. But I would say James Baldwin would be the person that I would just love to sit and talk to, just to get his perspective and just let him pontificate about life and the world and all of that. So yeah, James Baldwin for sure.
Beautiful. All right. A biopic's being made about Oscar McBride. Who plays you?
That's a hard one, Nick, man. Some people would say Shaq. I've heard that
Lakers,
before.
Lakers Shaq or Orlando Magic Shaq?
For sure, Orlando Magic Shaq, man. What do you mean? Yeah, for sure, Orlando Magic. But I would say if I had to pick, I'd say Morris Chestnut or maybe Blair Underwood. One of those two cats.
All right, Morris Chestnut. I could see it. Your top 2 football movies.
Top 2. Okay, number 1, Remember the Titans, bro. That's number 1. And then, believe it or not, number 2, Waterboy. Love it.
All right.
I love Adam Sandler. Obviously Henry Winkler was great. So Remember the Titans with Denzel Washington and the Waterboy with Adam Sandler.
2 very good picks. All right, Coach. I know you haven't been in the area for long, but your go-to South Bay eatery and your favorite dish there.
Ooh. Okay, so my wife and I have gone to, what's the name of the hotel? There's a hotel in the South Bay, but the name of the restaurant is Sea Level.
At the Shade Hotel.
At the Shade Hotel. There we go. At the Shade Hotel, Sea Level. I can't tell you specifically what dish, but their brunch menu goes crazy. Like my wife and I had the massive cinnamon roll there. Next level stuff, man. Cinnamon roll, nice cup of coffee, a little bit of cream, drop a sweet and low in that thing. We're ready to go.
There we go. All right, South Bay. If you've got spots you want Coach to hit, you know how to find them. Thank you very much, Coach. I look forward to talking to you in the future. Best of luck to you and the Knights.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, Nick. Go Knights.